In this Diablo 4 video, we're going to be talking about Diablo 4 and the information that was released about it at the Xbox conference. So if you've been wondering what's happening with the game in terms of character customization, couch co-op, release date, watch on to find out more. So for starters, the first thing revealed was the fifth and final class, the Necromancer, which shouldn't be too shocking to anyone. This is an iconic class throughout the Diablo franchise history. So if you're a big fan of playing the Necromancer, I know I am, you can look forward to that in Diablo 4. Without going into too many details on the Necromancer, which we'll probably cover in another video, it does seem like you're going to be able to summon the classic skeletal mages and golems that you've seen in like Diablo 2, as well as a whole group of different other summons, including defenders and reapers. So if you like that summoning playstyle as a Necromancer, I think you're going to be able to explore much more deeply in Diablo 4 than you have in previous Diablo games. Another really important thing to mention that they've been discussing is that the fact that the game is non-linear and is very open world. Historically, Diablo games have been extremely linear in the sense that, you would go from one zone to the next zone or one act to the next act, following a specific course of levels, however you wanted to do those levels, but it was always from one to the next. That has changed in Diablo 4. This isn't like a huge revelation, but I think the way that the game will play will be drastically different than previous Diablo games simply because of this one aspect. Players are going to be able to group up and do quests together and take on world bosses as they explore the world. And in some ways, to me, this makes the game much more of an MMO than previous games. There is kind of a discussion about like Path of Exile and where it sits in terms of, is it an online RPG? Is it an MMO because it's isometric? Diablo, in my opinion, or Diablo 4, leans even more into the MMO side of things than Path of Exile. So I think there is some discussion to be had there about whether this game is actually an MMO at this point and whether you should be viewing it as an MMO or you should be viewing it as an RPG. A couple other things I want to mention is that there are over 140 dungeons in the game as well as dozens of side quests. Seems like the game was designed with a lot of endgame content in mind. I know endgame for isometric RPGs has always been like a crucial factor. What do you do when you get through the campaign? You just go through the campaign again, like on a harder difficulty, or are there actual endgame activities? Different isometric RPGs have handled this differently, and it seems like Diablo 4 is building it with that in mind. Again, this is something that makes me think this is more of an MMO, specifically because they talked about expanding on this over time and adding content to this over time, and that's something you typically get in an MMO. Just like Diablo 3, there is going to be a Paragon system of some sort that allows you to gain increases in power to your character after you reach max level. I don't know exactly how it's going to work, if it's going to follow the same format as the current Paragon system in Diablo 3, or if it's going to change it a little bit. And there are also like objectives and bounties to be done when you reach endgame. This is similar to the way the endgame activities are in Diablo 3 right now. So you're going to be able to go out and take out a boss or, do some other objective that's going to reward you with gear. Specifically legendary gear in this case. So if you're looking to get those sweet legendaries, then this is going to be a way to get that. I'm sure it's not the only way, but it'll be at least one of them. The next thing I want to talk about is character customization. You're going to be able to customize your character down to the minute detail in this game, making your barbarian or your necromancer or your druid, whatever, look exactly the way that you want them to look. This is a huge thing for players these days because role-playing is all about role-playing. Like, if you want to make a character and play that role, you want it to look how you want it to look, you want it to sound how you want it to sound. So I feel like this is a huge advancement for Diablo. And again, it's another one of those things that makes me think this game might be a little bit more of an MMO than previous things, because that's a huge thing in MMOs. Another thing that I want to mention is that the game is both cross-play and cross-progression, which means that, if you have a save on PlayStation, you can keep continuing it on PC, or if you have a save on Xbox, you can keep continuing it on PlayStation, etc. And you're going to be able to play with other players on different platforms, which is fantastic. This means there'll be one giant community. As far as PvP goes, that's probably going to give PC players a huge advantage. I don't know how that's all going to shake out, if there's going to be some way to balance that. Thankfully, that's not my job. But the game is coming to PlayStation with, last gen and this gen, PS4 and PS5, and Xbox, same deal, Xbox One and Xbox Series X and S, and PC sometime next year. They have not said exactly when it's coming next year, but we do know the game will be releasing in 2023, which isn't that far away. The way things are shaking out right now, 2023 is going to be like such a huge year for RPGs between Baldur's Gate 3, Diablo 4, Starfield. There is so many games that are going to come out next year in the RPG genre that it's just going to be like one of those years where everyone's going to be broke and happy, or everyone's going to be broke and disappointed if the games don't perform. So we'll see how it goes, but be prepared for 2023 to be a huge year for RPG gaming. Something to realize too, if you're playing the game on console, is that there is 2-player couch co-op. Couch co-op in Diablo 3 was probably what made it fun for me. Like, I liked Diablo 3, but what put it over the top was couch co-op, being able to play with Vex and being able to play with friends, like, progressing together, playing on the same screen. I feel like games more and more have moved away from couch co-op, and it's one thing that I really miss. I love having my friends actually physically present with me and playing together against something. This is why I love board games, trading card games, stuff like that, where you're playing physically in person. I miss that aspect where you could play against the computer together in person. So that's going to be there for Diablo 4 if you're playing on console. And I think there are very, very few games out there that have this. One of them is like DOS 2 and DOS 1, which is another reason I really love those games. Not the only reason, obviously, but I'm really, really looking forward to that in Diablo 4. And the last thing I want to mention, if you've stuck all the way through this video, is that there is going to be a closed beta. We don't have any information yet on when exactly that closed beta is going to occur, but you can actually sign up on Blizzard's website by pre-registering for that beta and potentially being selected to check it out. I know I'm going to be doing that. I definitely recommend going to do that as soon as you can. Hopefully their website is not down at this point, because I imagine they have a lot of traffic going there. But if that's something you want to check out ahead of time, sort of see if this is going to be the game for you. I know a lot of people have their doubts about Diablo based on the direction Diablo Immortal went, based on the direction Diablo 3 went. It's always good when you can play something ahead of time. And the Diablo 2 remake, in my opinion, was phenomenal, and getting to play that ahead of time and know that it was going to be good was great. So if you really want to check that out, make sure you sign up for that so you can get the opportunity. So what do you guys think about the announcements about Diablo 4 so far? Is Blizzard going to redeem themselves with Diablo 4? Do you think it's going to be just full of microtransactions and other nonsense? Do you like the persistent online aspect of Diablo 4, or do you wish it was more like their classic Diablo games, where they were just like single player with the option to have multiplayer in them? Let us know in the comments below.